Oh, I have to set up the sound just as well. Went in a few seconds early, I think. Let's see if I can sort this out. There we go. Okay. There's two of you here, so please just let me know. Hopefully you can hear me all right. Unless I forgot something else. Let me just make some space here before I end up spilling my booze. That could lead to suicide. No, it won't. Just in case, for all those NSA guys listening, I have never been and never will be suicidal. So, where were we? Oh, one thumbs up. And whoever is listening there, if you don't mind, just letting me know that you can hear me okay. Should do, if I've plugged everything right. While I take a sip of my frizzantino. Garda. And today's topic is going to be about writing, booze, and shotguns. Oh, just good. Booze also good. I see we have another writer. Yes, the audio is fine. Perfect. Thank you, guys. So yeah, quite a few little announcements and things that happened over the last week or so. As you guys may know, I have finally finished the third in the trilogy of the Overlords of Mars. I'm gonna see if I can put up a picture. There you go. That's what the cover looks like. And it's been a long time coming. 10 years in the making, that last third book. There's a reason for that. In the author's notes you get to find out a bit about that. If you want to read a few of the author's notes and some other stuff to whet your appetite, just go to the blog and you'll see that on the left side now there's like an Overlords of Mars little thing. You click on there, there's more information there. No real spoilers. It's just, it gives you the military sort of insignia of the Martian forces. What's happened here? I pressed. Oh, where am I? Hold on. Let me just come back to this. No, that's not what I want. There we go. Right, let me just put that back up there. There. You can tell that I'm really good at this stuff. Let's see, not entire screen. I don't want the entire screen. No. Current application. Okay. So where did I end up? The current application should be this one. Okay. Sorry guys. As you can tell, my all right. I don't know where I ended up, but I don't seem to appear anymore in the thing for some reason. Well, anyway, that's the cover. Those of you that'll come late, if you want to see the cover, let me know later. Otherwise, I'll put you back to Ecamm Live Finder. Yeah, all right, whatever. Anyway, sorry about that. As you can tell, I'm not really all clued up on this stuff. But yeah, so I finished the third book in the series, which, like I said, took 10 years in the making. Basically because just before I started writing the third book, that's when the whole situation with my daughter happened, and a lot of things happened in the intervening 10 years. I mean, let's see, my daughter was taken from me to Brazil, then all of that trauma and stuff, going through that. I changed jobs for about 2 or 3 times within a period of about 6 months. Then what happened? So that was like, oh, then I had a messed up, sort of really weird kind of relationship for a while. Anyway, there was a lot of stuff going on. I moved country. I moved job. It was just, hellish. So it got put on the back burner, and then now is the first time I sort of had a bit of a chance to get back to it. And it was a little bit intimidating actually, because luckily I kept pretty detailed notes of the plot lines, and I can't tell you guys the background on this book, which I will periodically flash the cover because I really like it. I like that cover. And that's got all 3 books in it, just so you know. It's a huge book. It's 828 pages, the exact limit that Amazon will allow you to have in one book. So it's got all 3 books in there. And it was a little bit intimidating because, 10 years had passed. There's a bunch of plot lines, some of which resolve, some of which are still to be resolved because there's going to be more books. And no, they will not take 10 years, I promise you. But, this trilogy sort of rounds off the first sort of part of this whole story. Now, the thing is, if you go and read the notes, which like I said, if you go on the blog, like gfilotto.com, you've got Overlords of Mars on the left. And a bunch of stuff there, author's notes and stuff. No real spoilers, like I said. No big spoilers, maybe a few little bits. Booze. And but I'm actually quite proud of of what I've done with this so far. I think I was worried that the 3rd book wouldn't match up to the first 2 in terms of like complexity, plot, pace, narrative. But I think it is a good job. The first book is really sort of like a bit of an introduction to the whole concept, to the main characters, to a lot of stuff. The second book is very cinematic. It's like you could see that made into a film very easily. And the third one is a little bit of a mix. There's still a lot of cinematic effects, but there's also quite a bit of stuff happening and concepts that are like put across in not so much I'm going to tell you how it works, but more of a meshed into the storyline thing. So I'm hoping that if you read all these 3 books, you'll have caught up a lot on how I see the world in many ways in terms of technology and so on. But one of the things that happened that's not really cool is that I'd originally set this to schedule for release on the 12th of December. And then I changed my mind and said, no, just make it published now because people wanted it sooner or whatever. Anyway, Amazon has locked it until the 12th, at least, because I've heard, we don't know when it'll be unlocked. Oh, maybe tomorrow. Then, no, the 9th. Now it's like, oh, the 12th. And like, why? Why have you locked it when you've sent me, like, there's a couple of corrections I need to do on it, which is fair enough. There are valid points. And I've done them, but I can't upload it. Now, I've done enough books with Amazon to know that that's not standard procedure. So I don't know if the title freaked them out or whatever, but anyway, but it kind of pissed me off. So it pushed me to like, I've taken out pretty much all the ebooks that are on Amazon. I'm only going to do like paper books on Amazon. And I figured out a way to do the ebooks on my own. So that's one of the things. Now, figuring all that out in about 2.5 days, and thanks to the help of my most loyal henchman, who prefers to remain nameless, as smart people do. Took only about 2-3 days to set it up. So if you go to the blog and you go like books I've written or the shop, you'll see there's a new little button there and there's new stuff. It's embryonic stages. It's not like done at all. It's not finished, but it will get there. And doing that for 2 or 3 days, I could see how some weaker writers would want to like eat a shotgun. And you can tell that I'm in my Hemingway phase. I've just let my Hemingway phase go. But you'll be happy to know I am not a suicidal drunk. So it doesn't matter how tough things get. I'll just carry on. Suicide is just not part of my nature. Plus, it's a mortal sin, so I would never do it. Just letting the NSA guys know they're going to have to work a bit harder. That's all. So, cheers. This is a little frizzantino called Garda. Very light. I know I'm a lightweight when it comes to booze. Unless it's tequila. And I don't have the good tequila, so I don't drink the other stuff. Because, like my friend Vadim says, this is good for stripping electrical parts. But yeah, if writing is a very interesting subject. And I could see how, people like Henry Miller wrote the way I used to write probably when I was about 16 to 22, 23. The only way that I could write comfortably at that age was to just stream of consciousness and like similar sort of grammar. Hemingway like did things that I remember studying it in school, and I'd done essays like this. I had done essays like this before I read any Hemingway in school, where it was like and with no comma. It was just a list of like, and I did it on purpose. It wasn't because I didn't know that, oh, you're supposed to have commas. It was like, no, I want you to get the feeling of what the guy's thinking. And my English teacher was an infomaniac, probably still is, relatively pretty woman, so I didn't mind. But I did mind that she was like, no, this is wrong, you have to put a comma and then Oxford comma, not Oxford comma. And it's just like, oh, woman, you don't understand anything. But then we read Hemingway and he does that same thing, and it's like, oh, you see the genius of the true artiste. And I'm like, you stupid fucks. you just don't get it. I've read Hemingway. I've read quite a few stuff of Hemingway, and he's a decent writer. I sort of like his style. It's okay. I don't think it's the best style ever. Actually, the best writer, I can't remember his name, but it's a guy who's done a little book like that, little book with a green cover, and it's, I think the title is something like 50 endings or 50 versions of the Iliad. And he puts like 50 versions of the Iliad or the Odyssey, I can't remember, in like a little book. And like some of them are like one page. I wish I could write like that man. Because in one page he paints a whole vista of stuff. And, that is a skill that I don't know. I hope I'll get to one day. As a writer, that would be an achievement. But, writing is something that I remember reading something Dan Simmons said about writing, which is there are more professional baseball players in America than there are professional writers, like people who actually make a living, a proper full day living at writing. And I'm nowhere near that. If I had to survive just on the writing, I'd starve. But, it would be a cool thing to get to at one point, which, if I had that was my original plan. When I was 26 and I wrote The Face on Mars, I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take photographs, maybe be like a bit of a photographer and write books. And then, life got in the way because I had moved at that time about 26, 28 times. I'm 54. I've now moved 54 times. So you can see things kind of got in the way. And if I had managed to keep writing a book a year at least, I'd have like 30 books out by now. I always did write. Even as a kid, I used to write longhand and whatever. So it's something I had to do as well, a way also to communicate with myself sometimes, or rather, not to communicate with myself because I didn't need to do that, but it was for me to be able to communicate to others at least some of the stuff that I felt these guys just don't get. So it was a bit of an effort to write for other people was painful, was very painful. I remember The Face on Mars, like, oh man, it was like I hated doing it, but I needed to do it. So it was like, okay, I have to do this. Nobody was forcing me, of course, all self-imposed stuff. And I can see if you're a weak-minded guy or you've got some other issues, that you could get suicidal. If you're one of these people that's like, oh my God, is my writing good enough? Oh no, it's just like, yeah, okay, those guys are going to eat a bullet at some point. But there's, which remind me, guys, if I forget, remind me. There's a very important point, especially for younger men, the whole self-esteem thing. I want to come back to it because a very important, very basic thing, which I keep underestimating, just like I underestimated the number of idiots on the planet, which the last 3 years has demonstrated to me as always going to be higher than what I think. And it's a pretty jaded guy from my before teens, really. So I was quite impressed with like how wrong I was about the number of idiots on the planet. And this is another thing, is that the level of weakness of the average so-called man in today's day and age. And I want to explain exactly what I mean by that, because a lot of people have got the wrong idea about what it means to be a tough guy. I had a conversation with a very good dude. what I consider actually a good friend, although I haven't, met him physically, just online. But I really like him. He's a really nice guy. He's a really good guy. And we were having this conversation, and like it came across that he had this belief system about who he needed to be and himself, and to be a tough guy, what it meant. So I want to get back to that because it's sort of important. But there is such a dearth, a lack of men that are not completely weak and like, kind of like act like a hysterical woman, although women are almost never suicidal because they've got the solipsism that keeps them sort of going. It's quite rare for a woman to be suicidal. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but of course, the suicide rate of men compared to women is like astronomically much higher for men. So, Woolly Ram says, style-wise, I did enjoy Roger Zelensky just from the style of his prose. See, I didn't. I'm not. You're probably a little bit more educated or elitist or whatever, snobbish, like Vox. I didn't enjoy Roger Zelensky. I found him boring and a bit like long-winded. I'll tell you who I liked. I did not like Anne McCaffrey. This is a woman that writes a book that takes 3 fucking pages describing how a leaf falls from a tree to let you know that it is winter. It's like, fuck me. I can't deal with that. A guy whose writing I really do like and whose name I do remember is Pete Dexter, who was also a journalist, by the way. But I think probably the only journalist I think I would like, based on his writing. I never met the guy, I never spoke to him, I don't know him, I don't know anything about him other than his books. But he wrote a couple of books. One's called God's Pocket, and the other one, something about brotherly love or something like that. Anyway, if you're a depressed person or a little bit weak, never, ever, ever pick up a book by Pete Dexter, because you'll just go into the bathtub, slash your wrists, and hope to die faster. He writes stuff that is so brutally realistic about life and people and human beings and the news and how wrong newspapers get shit, that it's fucking depressing. But as a writer, he's brilliant. And now, Anne McCaffrey describing a scene to let you know it's winter, like I said, 3 pages of a leaf falling off a tree and how, it's slightly moist on one side as it flutters down. Pete Dexter to describe a scene to let you know it's winter, full stop. And then next sentence. It was brilliant, really good writing. Because again, painted a picture, let you use your brain. And I think the ability of somebody to appreciate a guy like Pete Dexter, or the guy who wrote the 50 versions of the Iliad / Odyssey, I think it's a matter of your ability to have an imagination. So if you're a guy who's got a poor imagination, if you're one of these people that can't think of an abstract concept, who can't imagine pictures in his head, who can't imagine a story in his head, well, then you're doomed. Guys like that will be like, what's it talking about? So it says winter, but what does it mean? Well, if you're a guy like me, that I just need a very tiny spark to like imagine a whole bunch of stuff, I think that makes the book for you, because it's coming out of your own head in a way. And the author is really just addressing the main course of the river. I try and do a mix of that. I try and give you just enough to so that you've got space to imagine, but I'm definitely trying to direct you down pathways that I think most humans haven't gone down, so I think are interesting. By the way, because I'm going to be doing my own ebook stuff on my blog, there's a piece of software that I need that is actually really good. It's brilliant. They let you test it out for free. Unfortunately, it's quite expensive. So if you guys feel the Christmas spirit upon you, and don't worry, I just want to show you, it's still here. All the money I got for the Some Children Have Never Had in 1911, it's still here, all of it. I promised you guys I would only go for that, so it is. But it is Christmas, I've got kids, there's other stuff unfortunately that happened, like my car had problems, the battery's dead, I need to get another one, try and sort out what's happened there. Some other fees that were unexpected and came just a couple of weeks ago, whatever. So, it's one of those things. I do need the software. Eventually I will get to it. But if you're feeling like, super chatting or sending money through the kurganet.com, I'm not going to hold it against you. The positive side is that, as some of you know, quite a few of my books are not available as ebooks because it was a pain in the ass to format them and whatever. This software is amazing. It's really good. I've tested it out. It works. So I will be putting pretty much, I think most, maybe all of my books as ebooks, and they're going to be cheaper than they would be if they were on Amazon, because I'd get a much bigger cut. So oh no, thank you, Sam. The name of the software plugin, it's not a plugin for WordPress. It's that storefront and all that is done. The software that I need is to make sure the ebook is formatted properly. One of the reasons that I don't do ebooks that much is because the formatting invariably screwed up. And I've had professional people. I've had people who do this for a living, doing the templates and then the formatting for like Reclaiming the Catholic Church, and it sucked. So the software is called Vellum, and it is purpose built for writing ebooks, and it allows you to see a preview on a Kindle, on an iPhone. It really is good. Railroads you into doing things the right way, and you can do print books, you can do like ebooks. So, but it's it's about 250, 200, 204, something like that, 200 and something euro, which is just an expense I wasn't planning on having. So it's not like, we're not talking thousands or anything, but it's just something I hadn't set aside for. So, and it is license based, so you need to pay for it so that you get your license attached to your name, your IP address, all that stuff. But it's really good. So it's actually software that works, which is like, nobody makes that shit anymore. It's like out of the 1980s, just works, just does its job. It's intuitive, it's easy to use. Woolly Ram, I'll admit to skipping over some of the scenes description in Lord of the Rings. For me, the one bit of the Lord of the Rings that like, what the hell's it doing here, was Tom Bombadil. The whole Tom Bombadil stuff. I was like, what the hell? But then I did read the Lord of the Rings when I was 12, and I thought it was a bit, in Italian would say pastoso, which is, there's a lot of chewy stuff to go through. Read it again as an adult many years later, and it was brilliant. I loved it. But the Tom Bombadil is still like, dude, what was this about here, And I think that was a little bit of, how English people have like, all logical and all clever, and then they have a couple of beers and they're like, yeah, and they go like a bit wild. I think that was the little piece of that Tolkien had in him. I think, I'm sure he wasn't a drinker or whatever, but you know what I mean. The English people are like, we're all going to be perfectly right, and yes, all socially conscious, and then all of a sudden they'll come out with some random shit. That's like, that just reminded me, my first wife, she was Italian, and we're in London. She was working as a hairdresser in a very prestigious hotel, and she had girlfriends that worked with her or like came to visit her, and her girlfriends were pretty wild sort of people. And my wife, before she met me, she had a few boyfriends or whatever, but she wasn't like wild in that way. But Italian women, like what was the description I read once? It was like, oh, how different women from different countries are, and the one for the women in Italy was like, they're like ladies outside of the bedroom, but inside the bedroom, hey, anything goes. We're supposed to have fun here, and so women talk, and obviously they mention things to each other or whatever. And there was a guy that used to work there who was like, I don't know if he was the main maitre d' or concierge or one of the other aspects that was within this very prestigious hotel in London. And so he heard some of the stuff from the girls, and and clearly he was a bit hard up. He was a little bit of an incel, and but he was always like super polite and super professional. And then one day, I can't remember what the discussion was, but I remember my wife came home and she was like, You know the guy I told you about who's such a nice guy? I said, like, English people are just weird. I was just talking with like my friend Anna or whatever, and like she said this, or and she said, you know, and I don't understand why that guy, they were talking about guys or something. And out of the blue, this guy goes, well, maybe if you didn't all just behave like whores, you wouldn't be like that. And he walked out. Clearly, you know, he was like pining for whether it was my wife or friend or one of the other girls, I don't know. And it was quite clear they weren't interested in him and they were talking about other guys. So he just like, ooh, he just like lost it and had a little gamma spurg moment. That's what I mean about English people. You know, they'll be like very normal, and then all of a sudden they'll come out with something that you're like, what? What's that? And I think that's Tolkien's Tom Bombadil section of Lord of the Rings. I'm a little bit insulted, Woolly Ram. Woolly Ram says, if you weren't a self-admitted tech caveman, I'd say try Linux for software that actually works. I had Linux for years. I haven't been using Windows for more than 20 years. I used Linux on my computers for just about everything. And I'd used Ubuntu because it was the one thing that hadn't sold out. And then they sold out. And yes, I know there are other versions of Linux, but it's a pain in the ass because if you use Linux, you have to, like, whatever you get a printer, and then it's like, oh, it doesn't work, and you have to get a special thing, and it's just a pain in the butt. And I'm busy, and I'm even busier now. So then I went to Apple because it's like, you know what? Apple is expensive, and yes, they're like kind of a bit gay and whatever, but it just works. And that was true. Now Apple is like starting to become Windowish. So I don't know. I'm still thinking, you know, I've thought of this again more than 20 years ago. Why don't the Chinese build an open source software with one strand of Linux that works, or another operating system, brand new? They're Chinese. They've got the whole government to do it. I don't care if the Chinese government has backdoors in it. It would be nicer if they didn't. So that's why I'm saying make it open source. And, you know, call it China wins or whatever. I don't care. Put a nice, good communist symbol on it. I really don't care. Just make a cheaper computer that just works. That the operating system doesn't degrade over time. That you can just run any printer off it and you can, you know what I mean? Why hasn't somebody filled that gap in? They would make billions, not millions. They would make billions. Open source software that runs, that just works. I don't know. So, yeah, I moved away from Linux because it was a pain in the ass, and it wasn't like actually really open source anymore. Willie Ram says, Tolkien, a member of the Inkling Club, and one of their pastimes was drinking, reading poetry to each other until the drinking made reading comprehension impossible. Well, there you go then. Yes, I did know about that, actually. I forgot. I just assumed he was a good English gentleman, which he was, so probably did get trashed on occasion. Sam Webb says, I have a 10-year-old copy of Photoshop. It's the only thing keeping me from switching to Windows 10, 11. No, you do not want to switch to Windows no matter what version. Honest to God, go Mac if you're going to change. Windows is just hell. It's absolute hell. Woolly Ram says, demented arch user noises. There you go. But yeah, anyway. So, writing is one of those tortured soul things, which if you're weak, pussy kind of guy, it's like, it's the pain, it's my art, whatever. You know, if you're a man, like one of those guys that used to sculpt marble and make it look like it's a veil, but with writing, because I can't do that shit with sculpture, but you know, the equivalent in writing, you don't worry about that shit. You're like, yeah, I'm bleeding. Yeah, writing this thing is hurting me. Yeah, you know, I'm not going to cut my ear off like some weak painter. And yeah, you know, maybe just a little bit of cutting here and there, bit of hitting the wall with your head, bashing it, you know, punching a few doors, whatever. You know, just normal stuff. Just get through the trauma. And you write. Just write till you're done or you die. One of those two. Which brings me to the drinking. Why are quite a few writers, again, Henry Miller comes to mind, Hemingway, alcoholics? Because in order to be good at writing, your brain needs to be free. Now, I'm a pretty intense guy, as most of you know. I've got a little Asperger's, as most of you know. So when I get into doing something, I mean, I know that Vox, complains about, John C. Wright, that man can write a 15,000 or he can write 10,000 word little essay, in like a couple of days or whatever. I struggle to write 500 words. Yeah, as far as writing goes, I know Vox has done huge books over probably longer than I've taken to do my third book. Because I remember, I believe it was 2014 when he said, oh, I've only got a few chapters to go of a Sea of Skulls. And I said, oh, so 2025. And he was like, fuck you. I was like, I'll bet you now. We're not far off. So I finished before him with my omnibus. But I have, no joke, written 15,000 words a day before. And that's why I managed to do this book, because I'd done about 30, maybe 40% of it before I stopped. And I started it, I think, either very late October or early November. So it's a month, basically. And knocked it out, did the edits, corrected, cleaned up, checked on the timeline, checked on the plot lines. In about a month. And I can see that, as time went on, I got better. I am better at writing. And I could knock out a book that is a divertimento, which is fun for me to write. I could knock a book out every month. I could absolutely do a book a month, no problem. But if I'm writing something that I want to write that is good, what I consider good writing, that'll take me a little bit longer, unless it's like a novella. It's like I can just about do that in a month. Cleaned up and everything. But, I need my brain to be free in order to do that, which is difficult if you've got a bunch of kids running around, if you've got to cut wood because, it's winter, if you've got to do a bunch of shit, which I do. And so sometimes when I'm writing, I work on it like a demon, and then it's I just switch off. And I've been binge watching, at 2 a.m, the old episodes of Frasier, which is very interesting because there's stuff that's going on in Frasier. I also watch it because sometimes in the early evening, my elder daughter is also we want to spend some time together, whatever. And it's quite funny. And Frasier was pretty harmless. There wasn't any hardcore stuff in there. There's some sex jokes and whatever, but it's relatively clean, little series. And it's more than 20 years old. And I remember when she saw it, she's like, but Dad, this was made in 1994. It's yeah, just watch it. And she was laughing at it. But there's some stuff that would not be allowed to go on TV now. They make jokes about gay people and whatever. And it's somebody pretending to be gay is funny. And oh, a gay guy is oh, he's the funny guy. There's a whole bunch of things that now would just be verboten, most verboten. Where are your papers? So it's quite interesting to see just what a huge shift. Okay, it's 30 years. I think the bits we're watching now are already in the 2000s, so 20 years ago. The zeitgeist shift has been incredibly massive, and it's quite a shock to be made aware of it in such a. I mean, I know it, but it's you almost starting to self-police, and you don't realize, hey, stuff that I say every day now was absolutely fine 20 years ago. And the risque stuff I say now was okay then, It's very interesting. But to get back to having to have a free brain, for most people, they have a couple of glasses of wine or booze, and it's yeah, I feel more relaxed. I can just let go of my unconscious now. And there is an element of writing that has to be subconscious/unconscious. It has to feel right. Certainly for me, I'm not one of these mechanical writers. I think Vox might be. He has mentioned this himself. He said I think he called himself a plodding writer or pedestrian or something like that. Like as a writer, he's like methodical. I'm not. I have to sort of be inspired to do the thing. It doesn't matter whether it's nonfiction, whether it's a textbook, or whether it's like fiction. Um, I need to feel it. And once I feel it, man, when I'm in the flow, I'm like, nobody talk to me, stay away from me. I need silence, you know, just hard to do. But, you know, I've sometimes left the house because it's like, you know, more quiet to just go in a little coffee shop because whatever. Yes, there's a buzzing noise of people talking, but they're not talking at me. They're not directed at me. It's not some blaring TV or music or whatever. It's just like I'm in my little zone and I can shut everybody else. So that's why a lot of writers were alcoholics, because they're like, oh, it's just like chilling out. And, you know, if you are a bit weak, a bit depressed, a bit depressing, writing is difficult, now you're drunk, next thing you know, you got the shotgun lying there, and end of Hemingway. Not to speak ill of the dead, of course, but, you know. Which brings me to the next subject, shotguns. And this is where I enjoy the chat participation. Just remember, guys, at any point on any stream, any question or any commenting about guns is always allowed. You know, blasphemy will get you banned, but, you know, guns, pretty much, as long as, you know, it's a reasonable statement that's not just insane. Anything about guns is always good. Wooly Ram says a lot of turn-of-the-century writers used amphetamines as well as booze. Yeah, because, oh, I'm drunk now. I got the idea, but now I feel lazy. Oh, let me chew some amphetamines so I can just type and type. I don't need any of that shit. I've got it naturally. When I get the inspiration, then I become manic. All by myself. I don't even need to turn it on. It's just there. One of the reasons, I don't know if it's one of the reasons. I've never enjoyed it. I had a very interesting conversation with my wife about drinking that because, you know, she's English, so of course. In her past, let's just say that her and booze had a very, very intimate and long relationship. But and she's like, you know, she's absolutely completely changed in that respect over the few years that we've been together. I only like to... I've only been drunk once, the one time intentionally, and there's video of it because my wife filmed it. It's not for public consumption because, you know, there's bits of it where she had to like fuzz herself and me or whatever. And she's like, oh my God, this is one. I'm glad she filmed it because like it's a good, you know, reminder of what happened. I mean, I remember everything, but it was like, it's funny. Anyway, and it was intentional to get drunk. That was the one time I've been pissed. The most I've ever got is like tipsy. You know, I'll drink enough to get a little bit happy and I'm chilled out and I'm cool and I'm having fun and that's it. And I'll stop there. And then, you know, once the buzz starts to go, maybe I'll have another half a glass, whatever. Just keep the nice little buzz going. The problem with that is I tend not to do that outside if we went to a club, a bar, a party, because it does lower your inhibitions. And I'm an easygoing, friendly guy. Honestly, I really am. You know, it's like Vox when... I told him, I'll tell you another story about Vox. Let me carry on with this. But I really am, genuinely. Most people will be surprised about it. The guy I was talking to today, like the first time we spoke, he was like, I was a bit intimidated of talking to you. I'm like, why? Like, well, you're kind of a scary guy. I'm like, me? I'm a harmless puppy. I don't know what he's talking about. And I genuinely am a friendly person. The problem is, you know that like, e-cards that like they've got a drawing of like somebody from the 1950s and then there's like a little funny saying and there's this guy, you know, like dressed like Mad Men, you know, and he's sort of like this, like at a desk, and he's sort of like, people say I've got a bad temper. I don't. I just have a low tolerance for bullshit. And that is, I need to make that into a poster and put it like on my front door. So when somebody, you know, especially if you're in a club, you're out with a pretty girl, whatever, which, you know, if I went, like girlfriends I had were always like hot. And then you go to a place where there's like half drunk people that like kind of feel pushy, they're feeling brave, they're maybe with their mates, whatever, shit happens. And then, you know, I mean, the way I grew up and the places I grew up, going to a club meant having a fight. Yeah, you went there to pick up girls, but really you were going there to, there was going to be a fight somewhere, whether you were in it or somebody else was. There'd be a fight. So, and it's like, you know, what's the hell? I don't enjoy that shit. So, you know, the point is, when I'm all chilled out, I'm cool, I'm in a nice place, but then somebody does some stupid shit, and my usual, like, no, you're not in feudal Japan. You're not allowed to cut his head off because, you know, we're in the modern era. That's kind of slowly floated out the window a little bit. So a guy does some stupid shit, and I'm like, you dumb fuck. Are you going to get on your knees and beg for an apology, or do I knock your teeth out and then you do it anyway? Where are we at now? You know, and everybody around me is like, what the fuck? You know, the guy just like spilled his drink on you and said, aha, instead of saying sorry. You know, chill out, man. And I'm like, no, get out the way, otherwise you're going down too. Because that's actually how I am, deep down. So it's why I don't drink, really. Well, it's not. Well, I just, you know, I don't need to be in that state. So it's very interesting to me, like people that don't have that little break, you know, because it's like, why don't you have the little break? And I'm not saying because you're, you know, necessarily like me, but like if you're, if you know that you're going to get trashed and you're going to vomit and you get, that's not nice. There's nothing good about that. So I don't get it, you know. I don't get the whole drink till you're trash thing, and like English people make it like, oh, we had such a great time. No, you didn't. You felt like shit for 2 days afterwards. You had a headache. You vomited all over yourself. You fucking trashed. You don't remember what happened. You caught an STD because you ended up in bed with some rando. You know, it's like, it's not a good time. What are you talking about? So yeah, that's okay. Let's just see. So, good. The chat is active. Remember, gun questions or gun comments are always allowed. Cordell says, I've been going around asking if my friends and family, if they can long divide by hand. Most people my age or older can. The younger people I've asked claim they were never even told. They're not lying to you. I'm surprised that you can not know how to do it, but then I think you're a Southern boy, if I remember, Cordell. So, and it's an absolute fucking crime. I'm teaching my children for sure to be able to do all maths with no calculator and explaining to them, you know, baseline principles and stuff like that. I actually talked about it with my wife because my wife thinks she's bad with maths, and I'm like, you're not bad with maths, you just got taught shit. And you got taught wrong. And we were talking about this because about our kids like learning how to read. And I've got this thing where it's like, if there's no such thing as dyslexia. It's just people teach you how to read by showing you whole words. And so you see the word, and you see a word that you've never seen before, and you panic. And I learned this with one of my girlfriends many years ago because she thought she was dyslexic, and it's not. I taught her how to read, like letter by letter. She'd learned in that way of like seeing whole words. And after I taught her how to read letter by letter, she read a little bit slower, but she could read anything. You know, she could understand all sorts of things that she didn't before. So, and it's the, you know, it's the same thing with maths. If you've got a bad teacher, if you've got somebody that teaches you in these crappy new ways, I remember like in England, the girl that I tutored for a little bit, they were being taught to like draw little things with a hop, and I'm like, stop, little girl. Think about it. If this is how you're going to do maths, how are you going to do 10,596,000 divided by 4,632? You can't. You would need like a football field worth of paper to do the little jumps. It's bullshit. These people are trying to teach you to like work at McDonald's and go, would you want a fries with that? No. So I told her how to do, you know, multiplication and division the way that I was taught in school, the way my mother taught me, the way my grandparents used to do it. And she was fine. So, you know, it's that. A lot of it is that. Woolly Ram says you can still see gay jokes in Japanese media, but it's coming under American pressure. Yeah, it is. And it's like, what? You know, Russia has banned gay propaganda. And I think Hungary, I don't know if he's gay or not, but some museum director or whatever showed like some kids like some gay stuff, and they fired his ass. They were like, nope, that's propaganda. So, you know, there are countries where they're pushing back on that, I guess. Portal says random, but I've been obsessed over it since last stream. So, it's good. It's good. You know, mathematics, the basics of logic, even more important than maths is logic. If you don't understand what logic is, and you don't, then you have no basis for the objective reality. This is the conversation I was having with my wife, because she was like, oh, but I don't know. And I was like, listen, the reason that you question everything is because you've been lied to all your life by pretty much everyone around you. I get that. But you need to understand. You need to figure out for yourself. You need to see it. You need to understand it for yourself. It needs to be real for you, that objective reality is a thing. Do whatever you have to do. You know, literally smash your head into a wall if you need to know that reality is there, regardless of what you think or anybody else. There is a reality that is true and absolute for everybody. It doesn't matter. There's no such thing as your truth. That's the baseline. And the baseline of that is logic. And once you've got logic, then you can learn maths. Once you've got maths, you can pretty much learn anything. Because, you know, logic and maths are not opinions, like my granddad used to say. He says it was the ECT that made Hemingway blow his brains out. ECT. I'm sorry, guys, but I, as you know, I'm a good church-going boy. Even when I wasn't going to church or any kind of Christian, I never indulged in any kind of drugs. So I don't know what ECT is. Some form of weed, I guess. I don't know. Sam says, I find that a light-hearted mood allows the most effective concentration and thus the best work. Absolutely. Basic systema principle. You know, the Russians will teach you, look, whether you're fighting or stabbing somebody or, you know, it doesn't matter. Feeling must be the same like when you drink a glass of wine with your good friends. To which some other Russians in one of the classes goes, but Vladimir, you know this bone in the neck. So when you stab somebody, sometimes that bone is in the way. Are you supposed to try to break through or slide along it? And Vladimir's like, no, you slide along it. But why you don't know this? It's like, and then you realize, perhaps they have some knowledge of this. Perhaps, you know. So yeah. And it's true. Like one of the things that freaked out one of the guys I used to work with when he missed the rush is like, these guys are freaky, man. They're beating the crap out of you and they're smiling. They're like, little smile. And they're like just beating the shit out of me. And like I fought guys in street fights and I can't do anything to them and they're beating the crap out of me and they're smiling. I don't get it. Fucks with their head. But they're smiling because like, yeah, I'm just making movement. Doesn't matter if I'm punching you or drinking tea. It's the same movement. Absolutely. The fake witch doctor says, what about anti-gravity device control? I'm sorry, you're going to have to expand a little bit what you mean on that. Anti-gravity device control. Anti-gravity is a thing. It's been a thing since 1928. If you're interested in that stuff, non-fiction, The Face on Mars. Fiction, this book here that's going to come out at some point. I don't know when. There you go. That's what it looks like. I don't know why I'm not in the picture anymore for some reason, but that's what it looks like. It is supposed to come out on the 12th. It won't because they blocked it, or whatever. Amazon is doing some random shit. Oh, maybe it's that. Let's see. Does that work? No. Never mind. Anyway. If you're interested into anti-gravity machines and you want fiction but with a lot of science and it still works the way that I say in the fiction book, that's the book that's going to come out. Just go to the blog and I'll update it there when it comes out. But if you had a more specific question, you're going to have to be more specific because I don't know what you're saying. Uli Ram says, what's the use case for shotgun? Say during a zombie apocalypse, you scavenge a shotty from a fallen officer. Ooh. That's a good long question, but I want to thank Sam Wereb, Super Chat, for $2. 2 farthings for the Ammo Software Fund. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Your 2 farthings are very much appreciated. Shotgun in the zombie apocalypse. Well, a shotgun is one of the most versatile weapons you can have. Um, you know, if I had to say, okay, you're in the zombie apocalypse, and let's say you have infinite ammo, but you can only have one firearm, it would be tough. But the shotgun might well be the weapon I would pick, because with a shotgun you can shoot everything from birds to a buffalo. I wouldn't want to shoot a charging buffalo with a shotgun, but that's all I had. It's better than a pop gun, and probably better than a handgun. And you can shoot from solid slugs to tiny bird shot and everything in between. For close in defense work, it's the most effective weapon. In a house invasion, the last thing you want to be shot with is a shotgun. Especially if the guy that's using it knows how to use it, because it's not just blindly firing. Because a shotgun is about an inch per yard, the opening. So at 10 yards, you've got 10 meters, you've got a rosata, a cloud of pellets coming at you about that big. So you still have to be fairly accurate, but a cloud of bullets that big hits you in the chest, that's bye bye. If it's buckshot, you got anywhere from 9 to 20 or 9mm balls hitting you. It's you're done. And even with a number 5 buckshot at 2 meters in the face, you no longer have a head. It's a pink cloud. So in terms of defending closed off areas, urban warfare, house intrusion, that sort of thing, a shotgun is absolutely the bomb. I would pick a pump action. I would always pick a pump action over a 2-shot, like an over and under, or a semi-automatic, just because it won't jam. The pump action shotgun is almost like the equivalent of a revolver in a pistol. If it jams, you just pump it out, boom, shoot again. Pump it out, boom, shoot again. And it's also what I grew up with. It's the first shotguns I shot was a pump action. It was a Remington pump action, and loved that gun. And yeah, it's very versatile. It's effective range. If you're talking about people, unless you're using slugs, it's probably within 100 meters. But again, urban warfare, within 100 meters is most fights. If you're in a rural setting, shotgun, the rifle for humans is probably better. But again, it depends on the situation, because if you're in a rural setting and you've got a nice, big, thick-walled, hunkered down, big house, unless they're going to take you out with drones, they're going to come in the house. It don't matter if they got AR-15s and you got a shotgun. I'd prefer to have it. If I'm defending my house and there's 5 guys with AKs or whatever coming in, again, okay, fully auto AK versus a semi-auto AK, it makes a bit of a difference. But let's say they've got civilian version assault rifles, which are semi-autos, and I've got a shotgun. Yeah, come at me, buddy. My shotgun, I don't have to be perfectly accurate. I've got a pretty big margin of error compared to a dot. So even if I'm really hidden behind a corner and I'm just peeking out with a little eye, and you come in shooting, I can just put my head back and boom, 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 and I've covered about 2 feet of area in 3 shots. If you're anywhere in there at that height, you're gone. So shotgun is very effective. If you're good, and if you've got slugs, and if you've got rifle barrel, you can probably go out to 100 meters on a buck or something like that. But that's about the effective range, I'd say, is within 100 meters tops, probably. I hope that answers your question. Sam says, I hate to be drunk, but I really enjoy a good buzz. Probably too much. There you go. A nice little buzz with your friends while you're having a good conversation. It's great. Wooly Ram says, the nice thing about seedy bars is that no one goes there to have a good time. They go there to get drunk. Yeah, I find those places one of the most depressing places on earth. Cordell says, I'm a Yankee, as my southern friends have informed me, but I went to a rural Midwestern school, so that probably saved me. There you go. There you go. I think you call guys like you copperheads. I don't know why. All that makes me think of is copper-jacketed bullets. So, sounds good to me. Wooly Ram says, had a short berserk episode when I realized how badly I was taught maths in school. Yeah, absolutely. A retired IBM engineer showed me how to do percentiles and the fractions during an evening of whiskey and conversation. That's what I mean. If you're taught properly, principles above everything else, if you're taught the principle of something properly, you will never forget it. You'll be able to do maths forever. And it takes half an hour, if that. Underbear says, shotgun seems inconsiderate to the cleaning lady. Quitters never win. Greetings all, Underbear. Yeah. Well, I don't have a cleaning lady. And when I did have a cleaning lady, she was an awesome cleaning lady. I'm still in touch with her. She's moved to her home country, which I forget. It's Bulgaria, I think, or Latvia. I'm not sure. I can't remember. She bought a little property there, and she's trying to do what I'm doing. She's a tough lady. She's a lovely woman. Brilliant cleaning lady. That cleaning lady cleared up a lot of my messes. I mean, this was in my fully heathen period of life, so it happened multiple times that I, got up in the morning with one woman and ended the evening with another woman. And I remember on more than one occasion, I texted her and said, I'm really sorry to do this to you, but could you change all my bed sheets? Because, I've got a girl with different colored hair coming in today, and she might pick up that I was there last night with someone else. So I wasn't lying to these women. I wasn't seeing one regularly and then cheating on her. I was just whatever's going is going. They don't have to know. If they asked, I told them the truth. I'm not exclusive, whatever. And she did it with a smile on her face, and she used to tease me. I'd be like, don't worry, Giuseppe. I've also not been a good girl sometimes. I know what it's like. Just changed my shit. Awesome lady. So, I don't think she would have minded. She'd have just been like, Giuseppe, please, can you put plastic down first next time? Something like that. Oh, right. The fake witch doctor says, can anyone play with it, or should there be restrictions on anti-gravity tech? Absolutely, there needs to be restrictions. Keep in mind that somebody with an anti-gravity machine the size of a car can reduce this whole planet to rubble. Literally an asteroid belt. Or a slag heap. Kind of like Mars. So, absolutely, there need to be controls. I have thoughts on that, on how I would do it. If you suddenly put me in charge of all the anti-gravity machines on Earth and off Earth that we have, because we absolutely have them, I would have some very stringent rules about it. I don't have a problem with there being stringent rules on anti-gravity technology. I might have a problem with who's got it and who doesn't. But even then, the fact is, as long as everybody understands, you can't use anti-gravity technology to make war on each other, because it's like, imagine, the Americans are very fond of Second Amendment, everybody's got a gun. Fine, great. Everybody's got a handgun. Cool. Crime absolutely goes down. It's been tested and proven everywhere on the planet, where citizens can conceal carry without a problem and defend themselves. There's no issue. The crime absolutely disappears. And I've got a lot of first-hand experience of this as well. The problem is, what if everybody's got an tactical nuke in their pocket now? Their handgun fires atom bombs. Everybody's got one. Everybody can have one. All of a sudden, anybody that pulls out one of these guns to try and shoot, everybody's going to nuke him, because fuck it, he's going to nuke some. He's going to take out whole cities. And here we're talking about being able to take out whole planets. In fact, with a little bit of imagination, a nice enough sized anti-gravity machine can take out a whole solar system in one fell swoop. And there may be evidence that this is actually happening, by the way, real astronomical evidence, called champagne supernovas. There are supernovas that happen to be going supernova when they're not supposed to be going supernova for no reason that anybody can tell, and there's a whole bunch of them happening, a lot more than they should be, by everything that we know about how stars work. Which brings the question in, hey, is somebody having an intergalactic war somewhere and blowing up a whole bunch of stars? So once you've got technology that can do that, anybody that begins to use that in a warlike fashion needs to absolutely be destroyed. So even if the, Satanist pedivores or whatever have got access to it, and they've already got access to it, and you're not one of them, well, you still gotta fight kind of a Cold War kind of way, because the alternative is destruction for everybody. And if there are other intelligent races that have it, any intelligent race that begins to use it that way is going to get wiped out. So, Underbear says, halfway through reading Reclaiming the Catholic Church. Excellent so far. Thank you very much. And if you're enjoying it, please give me a nice big fat 5-star review, because that helps. Sam Webb, the shotgun is the heir to the blunderbuss. Indeed it is. Copperhead is an especially venomous snake. A terrible insult. I don't know. Venomous snakes are, pretty dangerous shit. Why? So, I don't know. Can anyone here calculate on a slide rule? My grandfather used to be awesome at that, and he taught me how to use it, but I was about 6 or 7 at the time, so I forgot. And I've got a slide rule now, but I don't really know how to use it, and I haven't had time to read the manual. That may be worth learning in a Canticle for Lebowitz kind of way. Very good. Yeah, I do have a slide rule. I've got a little manual for it, so if the MMP hits, if the EMP hits, I'll read up on it. Until then, yeah. And Woolly Ram says, can gravity technology be limited to be within safe parameters for daily home use? It's a very tough question, which is very hard to answer without having the actual physical thing to test and engineer here. In my books, I posit that it is, that you can, build it in such a way that it is limited in range, function, and ability. And I'm absolutely certain that there is a way to do that. Now, I don't necessarily think that the way to do that is natural. In other words, let's say that you can build anti-gravity machines this size, or anti-gravity machines the size of Imperial Destroyer. I don't think that makes much of a difference, because I think even an anti-gravity machine this size, whatever its parameters or limitations are, and it might be that, let's say, if this was going to be used to lift weights, beyond, say, 2 tons, the actual machine would be crushed by the weight of what it's trying to move. So there's that physical limit. But what I mean is, let's say you build a little flying car, right? And you think, oh, well, I just want it to be flying around, a couple of meters above the ground and not be able to go to space. I don't think you can do that, because I think naturally, if your anti-gravity technology is enough to lift the thing, it's enough to lift it anywhere at whatever acceleration. So I don't think it's a natural way of limiting it. But I think you can absolutely build the technology in such a way that once it goes beyond a certain limit, it cuts out. And it cuts out in a safe way. So it there's like a delimiter. But now the problem with that is, of course, you'd get guys that would be able to go in there and take out the delimiter. So talking about, the draconian uses of the technology, how would you get around that? You'd have to build a very, very, very safe system with a very, very advanced technology that's makes it really difficult to break into these things. And that at the limit of it, if you do manage to break into these things, because any lock ultimately is going to be defeatable at some point, but I believe that you can make locks that, while defeatable, will set off a small explosive charge, big enough to kill you and everybody within a 10-meter radius. Does that open it up to terrorist activity? Possibly. But you can see it starts to become complicated, because now you've got a safety feature that means that you can't use the anti-gravity machine beyond its parameters, but at extreme levels that safety feature will kill people, and at extremer levels you can use that safety feature in a certain way to make it kill people that are not actually messing with it. You can see where this is going. It's complicated. And that's why the safety protocols have to be absolutely stringent until the whole planet has evolved to a point where the chances of somebody becoming, criminal with it are next to nil. And again, religion helps. In fully proper Catholic communities, people don't lock their doors because they don't need to. But as soon as there's infiltration, as soon as there's degradation, then you get thievery. So Woolly Ram says, yeah, tech heads are naturally inclined to hack any tool they have, which is a human factor. It's a human feature. You know, it's how humans operate. That's how children work. That's how adults work, especially engineers, scientists, people that are like thinker with stuff. So it's a constant war of upgrading your systems so that they make it as foolproof as possible. And even then, you'll probably have accidents. Hence, the champagne supernovas. Maybe the draconians are not quite as Pacific as the little gray aliens or the blues or some other race. Who knows? But anyway, so we've covered writing, we've covered shotguns, and whiskey. I don't like whiskey. I don't drink whiskey. Chivas Regal is the closest I'll come to it. I'm not a whiskey guy. I don't know whiskey or bourbon or what the difference is between a bourbon and a whiskey, nor do I care. I mean, you have to keep in mind that basically whiskey was invented by Scottish people who used sticks to knock turds into holes, and then they developed it into golf. Do I really want to drink what those guys created? Not really. I'd rather drink what some Mexican guy sitting under a cactus that goes, Jose, I don't feel like working today. Pedro, you never work anyway. Yes, Jose, I know. Let's drink some tequila. I think that's a better drink. and less pretentious. But that's just my take on it. My glass of Frizzantino is nearly done. So, if you've got any questions about any guns, not just shotguns, or one thing more about shotguns. Of course, it's illegal, don't do it, blah, blah, blah. But I really like the idea of a sawn-off shotgun. That's a deadly, little home weapon. And I've always would have really liked to have a sawn-off over and under shotgun. Like a kind of a Mad Max shotgun, but not quite. And one of the other cool shotguns was the one in Romancing the Stone, very old film with Michael Douglas and she was the woman that did start in that TV series with Bruce Willis. Forget her name. Anyway, she was kind of decent, but I never, at the time. And there's a scene where the Michael Douglas character's got a little sawn-off shotgun in the back of his thing, and he pulls it out and he just starts shooting with it. And it's a sawn-off pump shotgun. It's not, a sawn-off shotgun with pump action, held hand with no stock is just kind of pointless, inaccurate, and very close quarters. But a little sawn-off over and under about that big, just like a handle of boom. That would be, it's basically a pistol. That's the guys are ready in your room. I don't know. I just like the idea. It's not practical. Maybe it's not very useful for anything other than, I don't know, some guy you really, really don't like, and you don't. I have no idea. But I just like the concept of it. Woolly Ram says, one is spoiled wheat water, the other is spoiled corn water. Whiskey versus bourbon. Oh, right. Spoiled wheat and spoiled corn. There you go. I knew it was some vegan thing. Just no. Kathleen Turner, thank you, on the bear. Romancing the Stone Lady was Kathleen Turner. Thank you. I'm horrible with names. That was a cool film. I mean, I watched that in the 80s. Yeah, it was an 80s film. I really enjoyed that film. It was funny. I thought it was cool. I wonder what I'd feel like watching it now. I haven't seen it since I was 16 or whatever, but I have fond memories of that film. The second one they did after that wasn't as good. Is sawing off a large caliber rifle useful in any way? No? It's just a crime against humanity and the rifle and God. And I think it's a mortal sin. I I can't think of any utility in doing that, because a rifle is essentially a long range weapon. The longer your barrel, the better, generally speaking, in terms of range, accuracy, etc., if it's a good barrel. So I see no reason to do that. The only potential exception is what the Russians use, VLK something, I can't remember, Volksnitze Spitz something, special weapon, like for their special ops guys. It's a 50 caliber rifle with a shortened barrel with an integrated or like a very big suppressor on it. It's for urban sniping. Typically Russian. They, you see, I like the way they think. They think the same way I think, which is like a decent sniper should like be able to take out anything at least a kilometer. To me, a kilometer is the minimum range for a sniper. Anything within a kilometer should be dead, first shot. With modern weapons, that's not a big deal to do. And so my go-to caliber is a 300 Win Mag, because at a kilometer it's pretty flat line, it's pretty consistent. A 308 at a kilometer, you have to really know what you're doing. 300 Win Mag, you just need to be kind of good, and at a kilometer you can do it. And if you're really good with a 300 Win Mag, kilometer and a half, doable, absolutely doable. But if I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to build a weapon for my special forces, I've got a whole army for urban warfare. Now, what do I mean by urban warfare? Urban warfare, the Americans think like 100 meters, 200 meters, that's police action. To me, that's not sniping distance. Yeah, you need a sniper because you want to be accurate, but it's not a hard shot to do. To me, urban warfare is 600 meters, 700 meters, 800 meters. And it's urban warfare. You got walls, you got cars, you got materiel. You want to go through that shit. You don't want to be fucking around. Same concept with like 300 Win Mag in a proper sniper environment, you know, open country. Why the 300 Win Mag? Yeah, it ignores the wind, it ignores the distance a lot better than a 308. Same caliber, same size bullet, just a lot more powder behind it. What do the Russians do for a sniper rifle in urban warfare? 50 caliber. Yeah, because why not? Guys hiding behind a car. Yeah, it's okay. Bah, shoot through the car. Guys hiding behind a wall. Yeah, it's only got bricks. Bah, go through the wall. Efficient, good, 600 meters, 800 meters, not a problem. It'll go straight through your truck. And it'll stop an engine block. And it'll stop materiel. It'll stop, you know, a truck. You shoot it in the engine block with a 50 caliber. It's doing damage. So, and it's got a shortened barrel because it is a sniper weapon with a huge suppressor on it. And it's fine because it's a 50 BMG. It'll still go 700 meters with a shortened barrel without an issue. So that would be the only point in doing it. But you don't sew that one off yourself. It comes like that. So, yeah. Underbear says vino or whiskey. I'll take vino over whiskey if it's white, because red wine hurts my liver quite badly. I've got Gilbert's disease. It's a genetic disorder. Drinking wine's not great for me, but white is kind of better. And but if I had to be red wine or whiskey, tough call. About the same. Sam Webb says bourbon over scotch, Wooly. If you add ice and just sip it, it will taste like cotton candy. See, I don't know what scotch is. I don't know what the difference between bourbon, scotch, and whiskey is. Oh, I did have a drink in it was actually a work function I did with my old boss. It was a very nice work function. It's a drink that's based on, I think it's got whiskey or bourbon or scotch, one of these. And it's like cloudy. Like they make it like with some smoky stuff. I don't know if it's dry ice or whatever, but it was awesome. That tasted really good. I don't know how they made the drink, and I can't remember the name, which upsets me because actually it's the only time I had like a whiskey type drink that I've really enjoyed. Underbear says vino over whiskey any day. There you go. Woolly Ram, while making fun of the French is a natural law, they do make good wine. Yeah, but I'm Italian, so meh. What I do like that the French make, which is my other go-to drink, actually it's it's a tough call. Really good tequila is number 2 compared to really good cognac. Keep in mind that really good cognac comes in at about 200 pounds a shot. And I did have that once in a restaurant. There's a billionaire was paying for it, and he invited me to dinner, and I was like, oh, and he says, oh, let's have a cognac. You like cognac, right? Let's have a cognac. Like, we had a cigar. It was like lovely dinner in a very expensive place in the center of London. And I had brought money because, it doesn't matter. He's a billionaire. I was going to pay my way. And, it comes to, he says, let's have some cognac. And I'm like, and the price, and I saw the prices on it. It was like 150, 200, and then it was, no price. Like, it's more than 200 a shot. And I was like, whoa, dude, I'll have it. And he goes, no. You're not paying for this dinner. You know that, right? You're not paying for anything. I invited you. You're my guest. You and your wife here as my guests. You're not touching your wallet. I'll be offended. And I was like, the guy is literally a billionaire. I was like, well, okay, thank you very much, Which means, goes to the waiter, your best cognac in the house. Whatever it is, bring your best cognac from the house and make it a double for my friend and me. I was like, fuck. I am absolutely certain that those 4 shots of cognac cost a multiple amount of times more than the whole dinner. And the dinner was like, have whatever you want. I can't remember if it was some expensive wine to go with it. It was massive. So yeah, but really, really good cognac. I would say that's probably my favorite drink. Where are we? Underbear says, went to my ancestral homeland in central Italy last month. Oh, dude, you should have given me a call. Visited Monte Cassino and saw San Benedetto's crypt and the Grand Cathedral. Very moving. Monte Cassino is very, very famous. You should have pinged me. I don't know where you're from, or you live in the States, I'm guessing. Should have pinged me. Should have come by and said hi. Woolly Ram, speaking of urban warfare, what are you seeing in the news about Gaza? Absolutely nothing, because I don't watch the news. To give you an idea, I didn't realize that the holiday, was the Feast of the Immaculate Conception was actually a physical holiday in Italy. I found out because my daughter told me, hey, there's no school tomorrow, Dad. I'm like, oh, okay. The little bits and pieces I've got, which is not off the news, it's off Telegram, is that they, the Hamas guys or whoever it is, the Palestinians are fighting back as hard as they can. They're absolutely outgunned, outnumbered, out technologically done, but they're kicking ass. Comparatively speaking, they're kicking ass. So that's all I know. I don't really follow that. I don't really care, to be perfectly. I feel bad for the Palestinians who are getting wiped out, and I think it was absolutely screwed up. It was a green flag, the whole thing that happened, if not a false flag, who knows? But it's not happening in my backyard. So Sam Webb says, I want to visit rural Europe one day, if only to buy good wine for pennies. Well, yeah, again, if you're in the area, give me a shout. Woolly Ram, and Ukraine, for that matter, the powers that be are spreading themselves thin. Yeah, they sure are. But I think it was Putin recently in like the news or I can't remember, some talk he gave. He basically said Ukraine will be done in a week if the West stops supporting it, like weapon-wise, money-wise. That'd be done in a week. But I don't think Putin wants it to be done in a week. I think the West is really doubling down like the usual idiot SJWs that they are, and they're thinking, we're going to fight to the last Ukrainian. Partly because they're told to do so by, the people who actually run America. Partly because they're stupid, weak, and they think they're smarter than everybody else, and they're not. They're dumb. Because the longer this drags out, the absolutely more and more and more Russia will absolutely be able to secure their border and secure that whole situation. So it's playing to their hands. They're reducing, the whole point is supposed to be denazification, and I think, well, they're doing it. I really hope that Zelensky, they're talking about Zelensky, the last thing I heard, they're talking about Zelensky, escaping off to America. And I hope if that happens, that he doesn't make it. And by that, I mean, I hope he gets to America and then something happens suddenly, you know, COVID. It's dangerous shit. Willie Ram says, I was the other way around. White wine had me splitting headaches, while red wine was like milk for me. Different strokes for different folks. Willie Ram says, I've had good cognac once. It's a once in a lifetime event. Well, I hope not. I hope that, you know, when the apocalypse hits, if I'm in the right place, I could probably stock up for free. Or just a few bullets and a firefight or two. It's worth it. I mean, in an apocalypse, if you told me there's like 2 handfuls of gold coins, however many you can grab in your hands, 2 handfuls, or that, like, you know, $200 a shot cognac, however many bottles you can carry in your t-shirt if you're holding it up, I would absolutely go for the cognac. And not to sell it, you know, not to like, I would absolutely go for the cognac. I got ammo, I don't need the gold. Lead's worth a lot more in certain situations, so. Zelensky the martyr. No. Oh, I'd take a page out of the Freemasons with that one. He wouldn't be a martyr. He'd die of ass cancer. Virulent ass cancer that creates bulbous parasitic infested tumors on his asshole. That would be the way he'd die. Technology is amazing. You guys should really read Nazi Moon. You should really read it. I'm gonna put it up again. I don't know why. What is that? All AVB camera. Let's see if this works. No, I'm still not there. I don't know why I'm not there, but I'm not there. What do I need to click here? Is it this? No, not that. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna mess with it a bit. Show hide. Yeah, no, there they are. Text. No, not that. What is that? I don't know. I can't put myself in the picture when I show you the cover, but anyway. I'm assuming that you guys have crop, split screen. Let's take that out. Let's see what happens now. No, I don't know what I did. Camera effect, comments, interview, overlay, scenes. What's overlays? No. I don't know. Oh well. I'll try and figure it out later. Source, maybe it's that camera. Share screen, how about that? Now. Camera A, camera B, FaceTime. Select all cameras. Okay. Ah! Alright, I don't know. It's I don't know. Where was that from anyway? I don't remember where I put that source. Anyway, let me stop playing around with it. Last time, I'm going to show you the cover, if it works. No, I've screwed that up as well now. Okay, never mind. I'm clearly a technological wizard. But, oh, let's see, one more. I plan on going back to Italy next summer to help my aunt with olive trees. Well, dude, if you want to work on olive trees, you're always welcome. Thank you, Kurgan. I will ping you next time. The crypt of Saint Benedetto has a very nice artwork on all the church militant. Yeah. They, including Order Templars, they, yeah, take some pictures for me. So if you come around, you know, you can show me. All the Catholic churches are brilliant. Is the swastika why Amazon is holding back your book? I have no idea. It's a fiction book. Some notes and whatever. Maybe that scared them. I don't know. But I've had a swastika on the original cover of the first book, had a swastika on it, and that was fine. Then I changed it to, like, it's got a picture of my wife's eyes on it. And I think both are available, so I'm not sure which cover you get. I'm not sure how they decide that. Willie Ram says, you don't think they'll try and make Zelensky a martyr via the media? Oh, you mean the Americans? Yeah, sure. I could see that happening. I could see the Americans making Zelensky a martyr. Yeah, sure. I was thinking about the Russians. I don't think, you know, the Russians have pretty much said they're not going to kill Zelensky. Or I think Putin has said that. So I just hope there's some number 2 or 3 guy, you know, like, got a bit of initiative. But yeah, it's interesting anyway. It's interesting times for sure. Anyway, boys and girls, if there are any, I'm gonna say good night. Thank you all very much. And remember, if you're feeling generous, I do need that software. And no, I'm not spending any of the... Remember this Christmas, give generously. Some children in the world have not had a 1911. And this fund, every cent of it goes to the 1911 fund. Nothing else. There are children in Italy going hungry for the 1911 fund. No, not really. Zelensky, atheist, clown, world martyr. I think he's Jewish though, right? It's not atheist, right? Is he? I don't know. But yeah, thank you very much, guys. Really enjoyed talking with you as usual. And yes, those of you that are going to come to Europe or whatever, give me a ping. Thank you very much. Have a good night. God bless you all. And I will see you soon enough. Good night.